Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. 我最意的赦免。
Fui ciego, mas hoy miro yo.
Perdutor salvo soy.
There's a beautiful message of hope from around the world. Welcome to our annual meeting. This is UNA Westchester. I'm Marcia Brewster, Vice President, and I'd like to begin by introducing our President, J. Yana Edwards, to say some welcoming words.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Marcia. Vice President, she's actually been the co-chair, the co-president for these last couple of years. Really appreciate you, Marcia, so much. I would like to thank you all for being here, especially those who are here present and those that are, on the virtual. We appreciate, sorry we can't see you personally. Hopefully by next year, we'll be able to come together because you are truly missed, miss your faces and miss your spirit being here. The program committee is co-chaired by Colleen Godefay and Nicole Butterfield, and they are excellent, but the general, who I passionately call the general, is Marcia Brewster, who is also a part of that, and there are others too, and you know who you are. I really don't have to mention your name, you know who you are. We really appreciate you being here. The program committee is the birthstone, or the program committee is actually the backbone of our organization. They're the ones that disseminate all of the vital information that is important to us as an association, and especially as a United Nations association. We are about the only organization that can be named with the United Nations behind it, which is truly an honor. And I have been honored to be called the president for the years. I'd like to thank Dr. Brenda Smith, who invited me to be a member over 8 years ago, to be a member. And within that 8 years, becoming the president is awesome. I always, as a young person, wanted to be an ambassador at the United Nations. And I say I wasn't able to be an ambassador, but I was able to be the president of the United Nations Association, which is close. All right. So thank you so much. Again, the program committee, which Ms. Gardefee is on the Zoom call. She's organizing from the back. We really appreciate her and Ms. Butterfield for being, here and keeping us organized. We really, truly appreciate you all, and you know that. A special thank you goes out to the Westchester County chapter for being so supportive of me over this last year. You know how important and what the changes that I went through personally, and we've become family. And I, since my tenure is up, and Marsha Brewster, who was the president when I came in, became the vice president. And that was a blessing to me. And now she's the president for life. She will be. She doesn't know that yet, but we all voted that.
Yes.
And we thank you, Marsha, for being here. Again, I've been a member for, since 2003. And I was the council person for the city of Mount Vernon, where Marsha introduced me to CEDAW, or the Convention to Eliminate All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And I was able to get it as a council person in the city of Mount Vernon, was able to get it passed, the first in the state to pass the elimination of discrimination against women in the state of New York. And that's an awesome challenge, an awesome task. And since then, we've been moving along, getting the county to be the first in the county of Westchester to pass it. We're working on it now. Me as the advocacy committee person, I'm going to work on United States ratifying it because it hasn't been ratified. United States hasn't been ratified. And there's only about 4 other countries that haven't ratified it. So we're going to work on that. So hopefully before too long, we'll have it. So we'll be asking you to be a part of that implementation of that, because it's important that you help us do that by reaching out to your congresspersons, anyone that can help us move this thing along, because the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women and
Do you know where that would be? He's
Is it-
muted.
okay, my time is up already. But I had a lot more to say, but time is of the essence. And again, we'd like to thank you, young people. Incorporated.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I greet you on behalf of the Westchester County chapter of the Links Incorporated. On behalf of my president, Hillary Fleming, who could not be here today. She regrets that she cannot be here today. However, I am honored to give greetings on her behalf. I am Dr. Alexandria Connolly, a proud member of the Westchester County Links Incorporated, as well as I serve as the Vice Chair of Education for the New York State Division of USNA UNA. The Westchester Chapter County of the Links Incorporated, and in fact, our entire organization, the Links Incorporated, is proud to partner with the United Nations Association. Several of our chapter members, as well as the chapters in New York and metro area, are involved with USA UNA. USA UNA Westchester specifically. We are so pleased to participate in your annual meeting today. For a little background on who we are, the Links Incorporated is a community service organization made up of 16,000 women of African descent throughout the United States and a handful of other nations. Founded in Philadelphia in 1946, the organization brings friendship together for those that want to do service in their communities, focusing on 5 areas which we call facets: the arts, health and human services, services to youth, international trends and services, and national trends and services. The Westchester chapter county, established in 1950, so we will be celebrating our 72nd year. Yes, feel free to applaud. As part of the international trends and services effort, we have worked with high school students to expose them to various cultures and countries around the world through literature, art, debate, and career exploration. So we have participated in missions work contributing to goods as well as funding for educational infrastructure. Thank you for this opportunity to work together with the UNA. Mission is extremely important in these times when we hear about so much turmoil taking place in the global community. We are proud to partner with UNA USA.
Thank you so much, Dr. Connolly. It's so nice to be partnering with the Links Incorporated. Now we'd like to hear from our UNESCO ambassador, Simona Miculescu. Do you have the video, Derek?
Bonsoir de Paris. I'm very grateful for this chance to participate in your event and also to share a few thoughts on the very interesting topic that you chose. But also I'm happy to send my warmest thoughts to my dear friends that I know are there, with whom I share very fond memories from the times of my term as ambassador of Romania to the United Nations. Well, the United Nations was created to free the world from the scourge of warfare. It held out the promise of a future lived in freedom from fear. And UNESCO was created to help build that future. In the poignant words of its constitution, this organization is mandated to combat through education the ignorance of each other's ways and lives that has fueled armed conflict across the ages. Unfortunately, as we see every day the tragedies in Ukraine, conflict continues to blight the lives of millions of the world's most vulnerable people. Warfare is also destroying opportunities for education on a scale that is insufficiently recognized. The facts are telling. I mean, over 40% of out-of-school children live in conflict-affected countries. These same countries have some of the largest gender inequalities and lowest literacy levels in the world. Well, we need to get serious about stopping the terrible violations of human rights at the heart of the education crisis in conflict-affected countries. We all know we cannot build peaceful societies overnight, but there is no justification for the attacks on children, the widespread and systematic rape of girls and women, or the destruction of school facilities. It is unacceptable that despite a succession of United Nations Security Council resolutions, sexual terror remains a weapon of war, a weapon that is inflicting untold suffering, fear, and insecurity on young girls and women, and untold damage on their education. We need to unlock the full potential of education to act as a force of peace. The first line of UNESCO Constitution states, eloquently that since wars begin in the minds of men and women, it is in the minds of men and women that the defenses of peace must be constructed. Well, no defenses are more secure than public attitudes, grounded on tolerance, on mutual respect, and commitment to dialogue. These attitudes should be actively cultivated every day in every classroom across the world. Using schools to vehicle bigotry or chauvinism or disrespect for other people is not just a route to better education, but also a pathway to violence. And UNESCO is playing an ever more active role in the rebuilding of education systems in conflict-affected countries, drawing on our current work in areas such as intercultural dialogue, curriculum development, teacher training, and textbook reform. I say our because UNESCO is working closely together with its 193 member states, including Romania. Well, it is now more than 75 years since the United Nations was founded, and the challenges posed by armed conflict have changed. Yet the principles, the values, and the institutions underpinning the United Nations system remain as valid as ever. So we have to work together, us and you, in using them to confront the hidden crisis in education and create a world in which every child and every parent can live in freedom from fear. And on the other hand, my friends know my philosophy of life, but please don't forget what Mother Teresa used to say with her well-known wisdom. Peace begins with a smile.
Thank you. Thank you to one of our favorite ambassadors who's now at the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, Ambassador Simona. Now I would like to call on my colleague, Dr. Brenda Smith, who will introduce our keynote speaker, Bishop Larty. Brenda, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Marcia, and a very pleasant good afternoon to all of you. It is with great pleasure that I present to you Bishop Seth Osibisa Larty, who was born and raised in Liberia, West Africa, where he received his early education. Bishop Larty relocated to the United States, where he continued his education, receiving a Bachelor of Arts degree from Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina, a Master's of Religious Education from Duke Divinity School in Durham, North Carolina, and a doctorate in ministry from Drew University in Madison, New Jersey. Bishop Larty has served as a pastor, presiding elder, and now a bishop in the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church in Africa and the United States. He was elected the 100th bishop in the line of succession in the AME Zion Church. He has a unique honor of being the grandson of Bishop Solomon D. Larty of the AME Zion Church, but also being the first African to serve as a bishop in the United States. Bishop Larty has served in many capacities in the AME Zion Church, chairperson of Zion's Benefit Services, and the list goes on and on. The Gola Institute for Development and Education Incorporated and the Gola Development Corporation of the Winston-Salem, North Carolina, during which time he raised a lot of money for UNICEF And I know that because he called and said he had a number of dollars that he had raised, and he donated that money to UNICEF. As a visionary leader, Bishop Larty has been the mastermind behind building up communities where he served and organizing grassroots organizations that speaks to the needs of the disenfranchised people. One such organization is the 400 Year Celebration, Inc., an organization whose mission is to create awareness and unify people in the continent of Africa and throughout the diaspora on the issues affecting Africa. Bishop Larty is married to Mrs. Jacqueline W. Larty, my sorority sister of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I had to put that in, Marcia. And they are the parents of 3 adult children, Solomon, Alicia, and Victoria. It is with great pleasure that I present to you Bishop Seth Asabisa Larty.
Let me say thank you so very, very much to Dr. Smith, to the members of the United Nations Association of Westchester, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me express my thanks to Paul and to Dr. Smith for the invitation, and to Marcia for keeping me abreast of all that I needed to know and to do. If Marcia was in our congregation, I will consider her as the field marshal, distinguished, because she keeps it moving. Let me bring you warm greetings from our missionary supervisor, Mrs. Jacqueline Inez Williams Larty, our bishop's deputy, Bernardo Nguza, pastors, presiding elders, and the 180,000+ members of the Central Southern Africa Episcopal District of the AME Zion Church. Our focus for this afternoon is to look at the impacts of international conflicts and pandemic on education. Observation tells me that the presence of peace in our world is the surest guarantee for human happiness, positive progress, and creative civility. The absence of peace, on the other hand, promotes conflicts, diseases, death, hunger, homelessness, and unnecessary wars. Today, according to the Council on Foreign Relations, there are some 27 major conflicts going on in our world. These conflicts have given birth to needless emotional, needless spiritual, needless physical pains, and unimaginable suffering and unnecessary deaths. We must remember there is tremendous value in every human being. The English poet John Donne noted, no man, and I will have to add a woman, no man or woman is an island entire of itself. Every man, every woman is a piece of the continent and a part of the mean. On March 11, 2020, the world was rudely awakened to a reality, not by an alarm clock, but by a virus called COVID-19, at which time it had already affected some 118,000 lives while we slept. As of May 16, 2022, it is reported that 6.2 million persons have died from this virus. What an impact. The pandemic has internationally negatively impacted families, small businesses, large businesses, major organizations, non-major organizations, and most of all, our cherished educational institutions, which have the capacity to transform the mind. Allow me to shift at this time to share with you what has happened because of the pandemic and some of our international conflicts. I want to talk about the devastating impact of the pandemic on the private sector education in Malawi, a country in Southern Africa. In conversation with one of the providers, he said the impact of the pandemic brought with it the following: reduced enrollment of students, early teenage marriages among young girls, and alarming involvement in dangerous drugs, alcohol, and destructive behaviors by young men. Overall, there's been a less interest in education. However, the resilience of the people is evident in the fact that staff, teachers, sponsors of education are spending extra time going about finding and encouraging students to come back to the school building and to learn. Those students who have returned are experiencing two amazing phenomena. One, they are being given extracurricular work so that their attention can be redirected toward their studies. Secondly, a loving, caring, and supportive environment is being provided so that the students can have a reason for which to remain in school. Most private schools, accordingly, as a consequence of being closed for 6 months, were impacted by the loss of teachers due to the lack of salaries. Unlike the public schools, the teachers continue to receive salaries. For the private sector, there was no food for the students and the children. Families had to find ways to ensure the safety of their children while they went to work. In most cases, they had to employ someone to care for their children while they were at work. My sisters and my brothers, if ever there was a time for us to truly embrace the fact that we are a global village, the time is now. If ever there was a time to emphasize the importance of education for our young people so as to secure a brighter tomorrow, the time is now. The creator of the universe said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Together, let me call upon all of us to let us find creative ways to defeat COVID before COVID defeats and destroys us. I call on all of us to unite and draw from the depths of our hearts the power of love for each other and not hatred for one another. Let us draw from our hearts faith in our common destiny and not fear for each other. And most of all, an undiminished hope for a better tomorrow and not for the destructive tyranny of conflicts and wars. I thank you for the opportunity to share with you these few words. I've been informed of a question that's been put to me by Dr. Smith about the 400 Year Celebration, Inc. The 400 Year Celebration, Inc. was established to celebrate the accomplishments of African Americans and Africans from 1619 to 2019 and beyond. We had a universal dialogue looking at ways by which such an organization could be useful going further. And so we did a research to find out what was the number one problem affecting Africa. We came to the conclusion, based upon World Health data, that the number one problem affecting Africa is neonatal birth. Accordingly, on the day of their birth, 300,000 babies die. By the time they get to age 22 or 28 days old, another 800,000 are dead. No wonder Africa continues to face the challenge we're facing. Imagine 1.2 million homes crying every year. And so for that matter, we have constructed the 100-year Africa Neonatal Project. This neonatal project is constructed based upon a paradigm that combines public health, the business community, the civic community, and the faith community. We believe that combining these entities can bring a whole new approach to reducing the atrocity of neonatal birth on the continent. At the moment, we've identified 10 countries to pilot the first 5 years of this approach. I want to thank Dr. Smith because here we want to welcome partners, funders, and professionals to help us accomplish this goal. Thank you again, Dr. Smith. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Marsha, for the opportunity to share with you. We look forward to greater partnership and opportunity to spread the wealth of joy, of peace, and happiness in the world. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Bishop Lardy. We really appreciate your being here and all your words about what's happening in Africa and also in the 400 years celebration. Thank you. Now I would like to call on Fariha Taj, who is a refugee from Afghanistan. Actually, she came in, she's not a refugee. I take that back. She came in on the special visa for people who were working with Afghan in the US, and she's going to speak to our friend Raina Cadaval, who is the chair of the Young Professionals, and they were going to have a conversation about what's happening to girls in Afghanistan. Raina.
Thank you, Marcia, and good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here, and especially to be joined by Fariha Taj, who, as Marcia mentioned, she's an incredible woman, a former interpreter for the US military, as well as, and most importantly today, a steadfast advocate for the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan. So Fariha, thank you so much for joining us. Can you take a moment to quickly introduce yourself and give a few words about your background?
Of course. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Fariha Taj. I used to work as an interpreter in Afghanistan. I've been here in the US for 2 years now. I'm working with the White Plains Hospital as a registrar now. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And so to kick off this conversation, what are your thoughts about the new regulations that women in Afghanistan are facing, everything from what they wear to what they learn?
Well, I've been in touch with most of my friends and family members in Afghanistan that we used to go to school together. But unfortunately, they're not able to go to school anymore because of the new regulation of Taliban. They said the saddest story, the first day of the Taliban regime that they went to school, they found the school doors closed, and then the Taliban were telling them to go back home with the gun pointed on their face. And it's a very heartbreaking story, and we feel so bad for them still. And they only reopened the school doors for boys. Girls are not allowed to go to school anymore.
It's heartbreaking to hear and almost unimaginable, where we are today. But our hearts go out to everyone who is still there, and hopefully, from what you say today, we can hope to make some sort of an impact there. So you said you've been in touch with some of the girls and women in Afghanistan who've been impacted by these restrictions. Can you tell me a bit more about how they're feeling and what their thoughts are, and if you've been able to do anything to support them?
I think they are very sad, and the only thing that they can do is right now, most of women, they're raising their voice against Taliban, and there's no guarantee that when they're doing this, that they're going back home. But I think it really takes courage for women to do this, and there's no guarantee they're going back home. It's because they have been through a lot in past 40 years, and they already know that nobody's gonna help them. They need to do something for themselves, and this is very. I'm really proud of them. And the only thing that we want from the world that they can do for us is, please do not recognize Taliban as a government. That's what we want from the world.
Incredibly inspiring to hear. And a couple more questions here. Have you heard about ways that women and girls are getting an education, whether it's homeschooling and whatever they're able to do to kind of circumvent these new rules? And for those who maybe aren't able to get an education with the new rules, what does a typical day look like? What do they do instead?
I think there are some people like the teachers that were working before the Taliban's regime. They're trying to do something. At least I think I saw on the social media that people are like, most of the teachers, like we have a food truck in here. They have a truck and they put a blackboard on the truck, and then they're moving everywhere, and then they gather the children and they're teaching the children some stuff. Like, it's not like we cannot compare that truck with the school. It's the whole difference, but still they're trying to do something on their own power. This is something like it's still they're hopeful if they're struggling with the same problem. But I think it's not gonna bring any difference. That going to school and having a truck in your street is two different things.
Absolutely. And we had a question in the chat. Is there something that the day-to-day, or how does the day-to-day look now that women aren't able to go to school anymore?
Yeah, they're not going to school anymore. I have a lot of friends back there, and the new rule of Taliban is the women should cover their face.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, Afghanistan is an Islamic country, and there are some rules for Muslims to do, but in our religion, there is nothing like women should cover their face. There's nothing to cover your face. But the Taliban says that women who work for social media and for TVs or everywhere, they need to cover their face, which is not in our religion. And they're trying their best to do something against women. I think the reason why they're doing this is because they are afraid of educated girls and empowered women.
Absolutely. And I mean, we know in this organization that educated and empowered women and girls are who make all the difference in the world. So thank you so much. I know this has been a quick conversation, but it's been an inspiring one. So thank you so much, Fariha.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
I will turn it back over to Marcia now.
Thank you, Fariha, and thank you, Reina, for those words. It is very difficult. We think we've had a hard time here in the US as a result of COVID, but imagine what those girls in Afghanistan are going through. It's very sad. Anyway, we hope that the UN and UNESCO can help in that area. Next, we want to have a video of Zoya Letvin, and she is from the Ukraine, and she has some very inspiring words about education in Ukraine.
On the 24th of February, my daughter spoke for the first time. First word was babach, which means the sound of a great explosion. That night we woke to the concussive sound of bombs as our windows came crashing in. It was the bombardment of Kiev. I am someone who didn't believe it would happen. I was born just a few days before the Chernobyl disaster and a few years before the collapse of the Soviet Union. I grew up in an independent Ukraine, struggling to overcome the legacy of the Soviet system. So I was stunned when the windows crashed in. I froze, speechless, motionless, absolutely helpless. That was my first lesson of war. What you cherish can be taken from you in a moment. Even your peace of mind. For 40 million people in my country and for billions around the globe, February 24th is the day Russia invaded Ukraine. For 7 million Ukrainian children, it is also the day Russia tried to take their future. 176 children have been killed by Russian bombs. Hundreds more have been wounded. 10 years ago, I dedicated myself to building world-class schools for the children of Ukraine. I believe education is the most powerful tool for improving the economy, the environment, and human well-being. War very quickly destroys all three. So far, 900 schools have been critically damaged. 84 are completely destroyed. And yet, education goes on. During the COVID pandemic, Ukrainian government engaged my team to create the Ukrainian school online. During the last 2 years, it has delivered school to children wherever they were. Students from remote areas had access to teachers and lessons they wouldn't have otherwise. And that was my second lesson of war. Putin can take a lot from us. Our homes, our jobs, our loved ones, our peace. But he cannot undo education. Knowledge and curiosity are unassailable treasures. And as long as our children keep learning and our teachers keep teaching, even while they are starving in shelters under bombardment, even in refugee camps, we are undefeated. Our people stand heroically, but against the second largest army in the world, we cannot stand alone. To end this war, we need you. We need every citizen in every nation to demand that it stop. And that was my third lesson. My freedom is connected to yours. Don't watch from the side. Don't wait and see. Stand up with us now. Stand up for freedom. Stand up for democracy. Stand up for Ukraine. Thank you.
I found that message so inspiring from Ukraine. Ukraine is just suffering so much from the war there. Now we're going to come down to the local level. And first, first let me introduce, or at least recognize, our county legislator, Mary Jane Shimsky, and Ellen Hendricks, who works with the County Board of Legislators, and we'll talk about that a little later. We're working on CEDAW. Greenberg Town Councilman Ellen Hendricks has had so many different positions. Welcome, Ellen. Welcome, Mary Jane. Now we're going to bring it down to the local level, and I have the superintendent of schools of the New Rochelle school system, as well as Colleen Gardefay, who's here to have a dialogue with Mr. Raymond. Colleen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Marsha. I appreciate that. What a wonderful beginning to this event. Thank you, everybody. We are delighted to have Superintendent Jonathan Raymond with us today. Hi there, Jonathan.
Hi, Colleen, and hello, everybody. So such a pleasure for me to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Raymond has quite an impressive and eclectic bio, so I'm going to read some portions of that so we know about his background. Jonathan Raymond is the superintendent of the City School District of New Rochelle since July 2021. What a great year to start. No challenge at all, right? Before joining New Rochelle School District, he served as executive director of the Massachusetts COVID-19 Relief Fund, the chief accountability officer of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School System in North Carolina, and president of the Stewart Foundation. Beginning in 2009, he spent 4.5 years as superintendent of the Sacramento School District. Mr. Raymond completed the executive management program at Harvard Business School. He holds a law degree from the George Mason University School of Law and has a Master's of Arts degree from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, where he also received a bachelor's degree. As I said, quite impressive. Thank you. So I want to begin our conversation and talk about learning loss, which is, one of the big concerns about the pandemic, and also the equity disparities that surfaced during the pandemic. So here's the question. One of the toughest education repercussions from the pandemic is the learning loss experienced by so many students. Nationally, reading and math scores among students in grades 3 to 5 are down 20% and 15% respectively. The greatest shortfalls were seen among Black and Latino students, as well as students in high poverty schools. What are you seeing in terms of learning loss across the 10 schools in the New Rochelle School District, and how are you addressing the equity disparities that have surfaced during the pandemic?
Without question, Colleen, the pandemic has had an impact on our children's learning and just, simply where they are, learning on multiple levels, both academically, socially, and emotionally. And what we have seen this year, getting our students back into school, has been, tremendous growth in all of those areas. But the reality is we have students in classrooms at tremendously unequal areas and unequal levels, which is why our focus has been this year and will continue into next year on two major priorities: unfinished learning, as well as wellness, social and emotional learning. So that is where we are putting our extra resources, our extra supports for our teachers and for our school leaders, by way of extra intervention teachers, additional supports and emphasis on the social connections, and really, I think, recreating what has been for so many of our children, particularly those that have been impacted in our more economically and disadvantaged communities, is recreating the social connections and the social fabric and the communities that have been lost. Those communities are communities that you referenced. We've had issues with getting access to computer devices, have issues accessing to the internet. So these are all things that have been a challenge, and we continue to work hard to address. We have seen, and I would really want to give a shout out to our teachers and our educators for the work that they have done to really work in what has been such a challenging environment, very unpredictable with the pandemic, not knowing, when a child, they're dealing with their own issues, or, having to go back and forth between in-classroom instruction, online, doing it in a mixed environment, and that still continues today. So those two priorities for us. The good news is we are seeing children continuing to grow by being back in school. But it is not something that is going to be reversed by simply, getting our kids back into school in 1 year. But we will be continuing to face this for several years.
Yeah, I see that. Now, in challenging times, there are often some sort of bright spots or silver linings. Are you seeing that among the students or any of the specific programs? I know the Science Research Group is just doing amazing things. Can you identify some of those for us?
The genuine excitement of our kids to be back into school has been incredibly powerful and motivating. It's not without its challenges, as I mentioned, but they are excited and happy to be back in school and in school together. We've seen great interest by our parents and our families, particularly having spent time observing their children's work online and being part of that process, being able to be brought into the classroom, they're keenly interested. And so we're seeing lots of interest and engagement by our parents, and just the excitement to be back into schools over the last several weeks, particularly as we've been rolling out more and more performances, art performances, music, band. The overwhelming response from our parents and families has been incredible to be back in and to have such a hunger for the arts. I think the arts in many ways has been incredibly healing. So one of the bright spots, as I have witnessed and seen performances at every level, elementary, middle, and high school, is the incredible power that the arts have to not only give our young people such confidence and skills to help to really continue to uplift their curiosity, but how it's been so gratifying and rewarding for our communities and our families who have attended these events. You mentioned our science research program at the high school. It has been a really good year for our students who have come back with local, regional, and even some national awards. So we continue, and with the support of our community, we'll be increasing the science research program at the high school and really helping to bring science and the love of that hands-on exploring that learning into our middle schools and our elementary schools. Through expanding that program, just one such area. And we could continue to talk about some other programs as well, but again, it's all been underscored by the excitement and enthusiasm that our young people have had to be back together in those environments, learning with our faculty and staff.
Great, thank you. I want to talk about the community focus that you have maintained this year. Since you first began your role as superintendent, you have placed a great emphasis on engaging with the community, from hosting in-person town halls to creating videos documenting the success stories of students, teachers, and athletes, and showing up at seemingly every single community event, which is pretty impressive. You have really prioritized learning about and celebrating the community of New Rochelle. What is your thinking behind that approach, and how has it worked out?
To learn about my new community has been such a privilege and a joy, and to get an understanding of what has made New Rochelle such a unique community and all the tremendous assets. We oftentimes come at education from a deficit point of view, but there's such incredible and a wealth of assets within our community, starting with our people that are passionate. They care about New Rochelle. They love New Rochelle. So many people that are working in our district. Again, we're in the people business. We're born, raised, went to school in New Rochelle, and have come back to now teach and to give back to their community. So I think recognizing that has been a real great discovery for me. And then seeing the many unique partnerships that are potentially available. Again, we're fortunate to have resources in our school district, but no matter what those resources might be, we need to be out leveraging. We can't do this work by ourselves. We need the people power, the ideas, the passion, the energy, the excitement of our community to be involved in helping to support and take what I think has been echoed here earlier today from Ambassador Simona to Bishop O'Lardy and on down to the last two speakers who spoke, is that education is such a powerful tool, that knowledge is the tremendous equalizer, that this country was started and based on an idea and an ideal that individuals through knowledge and education and hard work and support can be and achieve anything they want to achieve. And that's why these partnerships and getting out into the community and getting to know people and finding ways to help them get involved is a big part of my work. And so that's why I spend a lot of time out and about in the community. And it's also the way that it helps me learn about, what are the challenges, and, where do we have to bring our resources, what needs to be fixed. I can't address issues that I'm not aware of. And by being out in the schools and in community, I see things firsthand.
Yeah, that's great. Wonderful. I have a couple more questions for you, and you touched on it a little bit, sort of the expanded role of schools into almost social service agencies. So many districts in the area started to adopt a community school model, offering free meals and Chromebooks to some students prior to the pandemic. During the past 2 COVID years, however, the need to provide free meals for families and Chromebooks for students and Wi-Fi hotspots for neighborhoods increased dramatically. Will this new approach of meeting the basic needs of families beyond education extend beyond that pandemic and become a new model for how schools will operate in a community?
We're fortunate that our schools are located within communities. And when I think of a true full service community school, I think of a school that's it says, and it's warm and it's welcoming and it's open for business, whatever that may be, from things as simple as making sure that our playgrounds are open and accessible on weekends for our children and our community, to offering our services in our schools, as we did at Columbus Elementary on Friday morning. We offer counseling and support and social services, to families that want to avail themselves of it. And the list can go on and on. We need to find ways to not only enable our communities to come into our schools, which has been a tremendous challenge given the pandemic, but also to broker services in our schools, whether it's as we do monthly, having the food banks that are able to come in and to use our schools as hubs for the community, to other social services. This is the definition of a true community school, is, when you're open, when you're accessible, when you're finding ways to create partnerships to make more of our resources in our communities available, to our families. These are the public schools, and we need to think of new ways to make our schools not only those hubs, but to be able to have resources available that they may need.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. And I have one final question for you, and just sort of, how do you stay optimistic? So here is the question. In a city as diverse as New Rochelle, where it is hard to please everyone, as you have probably learned, and as the virus still casts a shadow over everyday life, your role as superintendent must feel quite challenging at times. How do you find the strength and determination to move forward with optimism? What personal resources and support systems do you tap into for renewal?
Yeah, I'm first and foremost, I'm fortunate to have a really loving and supportive family. My wife, my children, my extended family, are always there for me, and I can count on it, and as well as some tremendous friends. I see my job, where, as I said earlier, we're in the people business. And so we're fortunate that a lot of the community works for the school district. So, taking care of our people is a big priority for us. And I also talk about how important it is for us to continue to get better. I like to win. And when you win in education, it means you're providing more and more opportunities for our young people, to excel and exceed. That's what this work is about. And that's what I think leadership, when you fundamentally get down to it, it is. I do try to find a way to bring a little bit of balancing in my life. For me, in my own personal, journey, it's making sure that I eat well, right? But I also work on my inside, through my own daily, regular mindfulness meditation work. This has been really important to me, and we're seeing more and more of that applicable in our schools. We had last summer, we began rolling out more summer programs. They had a STEAM and a STEM focus, but we also offered our young people yoga and mindfulness as a way, and I think a recognition that this work and learning is both external and it's internal. And it is hard to learn academically, if you're struggling on the inside. And so why both the academic part, the social, the emotional, they're all critical components of learning. And that's why we continue to emphasize, both of them, and to give these tools to our young people to be able to help them, manage their emotions, make good decisions, be able to have the kind of resiliency and confidence and self-assuredness that are such important skills and components in life. That's why the arts, if you walked around the lakes on Friday, you would have seen many of our art students outdoors. They were there from 7:30 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, working on their individual paintings in small groups alone. And that kind of sense of self and discipline and curiosity and a hunger for knowledge is what will serve our young people well, as they continue with their educations and on into life. So it's important that we model those as well. And as I say, if we're not, and I'm not talking about what can be, and providing opportunities of hope, there's so many challenges today that can be, I think, discouraging. And so while we confront those challenges, we look really, really intently at the North Star in which we are going to, and that is to ensure that our young people are the empowered change agents that they want to be, and that they are already, fulfilling that role. And that, I think, is an important part of what we're doing and what my role is as well.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for your comments and your insights. We are really grateful that you're here with us, and we wish you all well.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you
and I
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colleen and Mr.
Yep.
Raymond. That was a very excellent dialogue and really spotlighted some areas of hope that we're seeing maybe as we go beyond the pandemic. Thank you very much. And now, what you've all been waiting for, the winners of the media contest. And I'm going to call on our education co-chair, Mr. Dimitrios Mihailides, to award the winners of the media contest. And we call him Mr. M for short. Mr. M.
Welcome. Being kids that we are, my co-host Tricia and I, we wanted to bring a little humor and a smile to today's conference. She was going to come in wearing a beautiful gown, and I was going to wear my tux. But unfortunately, a member of her family is not feeling well, speedy recovery, and she's absolutely on Zoom watching this. And she was going to come with her gown, and I was going to come with my tux. Here it is. Okay. So, a reminder: adapt, adjust, improvise, and improve. So here we go. I have exactly 12 minutes. Brought my timer. Okay, at 11 minutes, I get the yellow card. At 12, I get flagged, and I'm out, zapped. The members of the Education Committee, Ms. Audrey, Karen, Tricia, and I, welcome all of you here today, whether in person or virtually, to the Westchester's Chapter's Annual Media Contest Awards segment of our program. We are here today to recognize and celebrate the students and the educators for their participation and outstanding hard work. P.S. This is my favorite part of the program. This year's topic was adjusting, adapting, and improving. Students were invited to view an introduction of a video produced by the United Nations, which highlighted how we as humans adjusted, adapted, and improved in the face of COVID. The students were asked to consider how they had experienced these changes firsthand, and to create an artwork, literature, poem, etc., that showed these experiences and their feelings. The decision was tough to make from all these great projects that were submitted. Finally, the committee, we were able to select the top 3. 2 of our students are on Zoom, and I'd like to acknowledge them first. Ryan Bateman, a 7th grader from Summers Middle School, submitted his essay, The Pandemic. Oh, okay. Good. Adapt, improve. Okay, so give me a second and let me, okay. All right, next, Miss Kennedy E. Hines, an 8th grader from Riverdale Country School, submitted her work and artwork and descriptive essay, Reflection of COVID, Adjusting, Adapting, Embracing, and Improving. So Ryan, please come up and receive your award. Around.
He wasn't prepared to have him in the room.
Ryan, I'm gonna do something, so you know, I have your bag right there, but you get one of these for sure. We would also like to mention, we usually display the winners and the runner-up works in the hall, but because of the COVID regulations and restrictions, you will be able to view all the works on our webpage. Also, we would like to recognize and thank Somers Middle School teachers, Ms. Carolyn Shalinsky and Andrea Hayden, for their hard work and support. Finally, we would like to send a special recognition and a thank you for the video submitted by the Yonkers Partners in Education program. But most of all, I would like to call up 2 fine young ladies that were willing to read their work in front of us and came in today. Cameron Lucas and Ryan Ludwig, 6th graders from the Mildred E. Strand Middle School at Yorktown Heights, submitted the poem, COVID Exploded. When I read this poem over and over, I was going around the house singing, the wheels on the bus go round and round. It just kept on coming to me. Please come up, and instead of me presenting this, I think it's much nicer, their assistant principal from the school K, Mr. Kelvin Rupchak, please come up. You're on. Floor is yours.
Take your mask off.
How COVID exploded. COVID is infectious, spreading its path. It kept people at home, stuck in its rat.
Self-isolating in Google Meets from home until we are free, now able to roam.
Wearing masks and taking COVID tests, leaving many people unimpressed.
Quarantining here and there, COVID cases everywhere.
There are some things that we cannot see. For example, COVID could be between you and me.
If you choose not to wear a mask, you are hurting other people. It is all we ask.
Making sure our families have fun while remembering that safety is number one.
Hanging out and making sure you have a smile on your face, but don't forget we have to keep 6 feet of space.
Even though COVID is what left everything's fun, at least we learned we can always have fun.
We have to make sure not to get sick, so try to get vaccinated very quick.
In December, when people get colds more and more, we know to save space because getting sick is a bore.
Though COVID is giving up, it's not the only thing that messed things up.
This is our earth, it's in our hands. We are throwing it away by littering plastic cans.
Now there's masks all over the floor. There's a clean earth that we need to restore.
Global warming has been spreading all over. It's hurting many people because of overexposure.
The earth is exploding. It's breaking up. It's eroding.
Don't sit around and lazily wait. We're dangerously going above the air pollution rate.
We need someone to fix this. Will it be you? We need your help. We need a breakthrough.
Dreadful things like COVID and pollution
are two problems that need a solution.
Congrats, good luck to all, and thank you again for all your hard work. Again, please, a round of applause, and we look forward to next year. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. M, and thank you, students. And that poem was brilliant. I wish we could have heard it better. So you will be able to read it on our website, www.unawestchester.org. Oh, did we forget something?
No. See, you educators always cause problems.
Thank you, Mr. M. And Cameron and Ryan, you've written a brilliant poem. I thought it made a lot of sense. It's very intelligent. Thank you. Now is the time for our annual meeting. We'll have a very short annual meeting. And by the way, we have a reception following, so please don't go away. We'll try to get through the annual meeting quickly. And then we want to recognize our Mercy College distinguished delegation. Annual meeting. Do we have the slides? I'm just going to quickly go through the slides. The full report of our full annual report will be on the website, the executive summary, as well as the long version of the report. But I will just go through it quickly now. Next. First is our advocacy committee, and it's led by Yana Edwards and by Brenda Smith. And among the other things, we try to raise awareness of the work of the UN among our local representatives, such as Jamal Bowman and Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins. And we are also working, as Yana told you at the beginning, on the convention, the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And that will be, that will be implemented in Westchester County by the Board of Legislators. Next. Next. Young Professionals Committee is headed up by Raina Cadaval and Paul Presendu, a bunch of brilliant young professionals. They're doing a lot of work with Model UN in Westchester County, as well as working together with young professionals in New York City and Southern Connecticut. So we are very proud of them, and we hope you'll all join them. Next. Program Committee, Colleen Gardefay and Nicole Butterfield, and I've been working with them a lot. We usually have about 4 programs a year, 4 or 5 programs a year to raise awareness of the work of the UN, such as today's annual meeting. And other programs are UN Day, which is in October 24th. Then we also celebrate Human Rights Day in December and International Women's Day in March. And there's also International Day of the Girl and other programs that we celebrate every year. Next. Communications Committee is headed up by Raina Cadaval. We have a quarterly newsletter, which is called Global Connection. And we also have our website, www.unawestchester.org, and as well as outreach and engagement to schools. And maybe if any of you are teachers here, feel free to talk to Mr. M at the reception, because he can give you some more idea about what we're doing with the Education Committee. Next. Oh, sorry. Keep going. Education Committee. Sorry, we already talked. Second annual student-focused media contest. The 3 leaders of the Education Committee, by the way, Mr. M and Trisha Valdez and Karen Rockwell El-Badri. And they are working together with schools, and you can speak to Mr. M about it later. Next. Partnerships and Community Outreach Committee, that's Brenda Smith. Dr. Brenda Smith is the chair of that. And our main partners these days are the Links Incorporated, because we have a national partnership with the Links Incorporated. And we also have the partnership with the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, many colleges, universities, and libraries. So we look forward to, and local mayors and local leaders as well. Next. Finance and Development Committee. We have a very small budget of about $10,000. We usually spend it all plus more, so we have to figure out ways to raise a little bit more money. We've worked on our budget for the current year, 2020, and as you can see, we need to do a few fundraisers. Next. Membership committee. We have about 299 members. Most of them are youth members. It is free for all youth up to the age of 26, I believe, and introductory membership is $25. We've increased our membership by about 12% last year, and we have a lot of outreach activities with high school students. Next. Nominating committee. Now we are going to have the winners of the current group of officers and directors announced by our nominating committee chair, Professor Joan Caton. Professor Joan Caton, the floor is yours.
It is my pleasure to announce our new member-elected board. But to surprise Marcia, before I do that, I really have to say, this has been a fantastic program. And I keep thinking that we've reached the height of our fantastic programs. And then the program committee comes up with another amazing program. This was fabulous. Okay, now I will tell you all the new members of the board. The first member is Marcia Brewster, has been elected as president, and she is back by popular demand. This is and Demetrius.
What I need, yeah.
Demetrius Mihailidis is going to help her. He is the first vice president. Lily Schindler will also be wonderfully helpful as second vice president. Karen Rockwell is indispensable as secretary. Victor Pittenkamani as treasurer is going to be amazing, as he is with the School of Business for Mercy. Brenda Smith will be chair of the nominating committee. And we have elected the following directors: Trisha Valdez, Nicole Butterfield, Colleen Gardefee as program committee with Nicole Butterfield. Trisha Valdez is on the education committee, as you already heard. Ronnie Lichterman is membership committee. Paul Presendieu is young professionals co-chair, and Yana Edwards is our advocacy committee chair. Please join our committees, meet our newly elected board, and all members come to board meetings. If you can, we would love to have you and welcome you to our board meetings. Okay.
Thank you very much. Do you have the last two slides there, Derek? Thank you, Joan, and thank you for your confidence in me. I am taking over this job again, but one of these days we'll find a replacement. Thank you very much. Next one. Thanks to all of you from the current board. Here are our pictures. And then final slide. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has, as Margaret Mead said. Now, finally, the final part of our program, we're going to recognize those fabulous Mercy College Model UN students. And they always win the award at the National Model UN program, even though the competition is very difficult. And so I'm going to call on Professor Michiko Kuroda, their faculty advisor, to make the presentation, but I also want to present the certificate that we'll be giving to them. It's they're being recognized as the most outstanding delegation award for Mercy College. They were representing the Philippines.
you so much. Thank you, Marsha.
You're welcome.
Honorable President and board members, distinguished members, and welcome guests. Thank you for the opportunity to celebrate our awards at the Model United Nations Conference, which took place in April this year. We are delighted to be recognized for our performance in front of a group of such distinguished persons. This year, we had a team of 16 delegates representing the Republic of the Philippines. We were awarded the Distinguished Delegation Award and 2 outstanding position papers. One was for the General Assembly First Committee, and the other was for the International Organization for Migration, IOM committees. Moreover, our team had 3 chairs for the conference. It was very competitive to become the chairs. So I'm very, very proud of my students who became chairs. Now I would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude for the award ceremonies that you have kindly held for us. And this means a lot to us. Thank you so much, Marsha and board members. And on behalf of Mercy College, I would like to say that we accept this honor. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Dr. Stuart Seidel, Dean of the School of Social and Behavioral Sciences. I would like to recognize him in the Zoom. Dr. Seidel, are you there?
Hi there. Hi, Machiko, Professor Kuroda. It's so nice to see you. And thank you so much for honoring us, United Nations Westchester. Model UN is so good for our students. And I was so happy when I came to Mercy to see that we had a thriving chapter under Machiko's guidance. I believe Model UN is so good for our students because it truly is a high impact learning practice where students learn way beyond what can be covered in a classroom. The social skills, working with diverse others, team skills that you could never get in just a 90-minute classroom. And with Machiko's guidance, they go really above and beyond and learn so much. And that also, the other reason I love the Model UN is it really provides opportunities to connect with the community, like here with this chapter right now. And then also can build relationships with other schools. Like because I had Model UN at my previous institution, Machiko and University of New Haven have built a relationship to practice together. And Model UN, I just think is good for the world. I mean, we live in a world where civil discourse seems broken. And the skills that students learn in Model UN, I think will be helpful, whether they're diplomats, whether they're in corporate America or just citizens. So I'm so happy we have that. And finally, I just want to say, I really look forward to seeing some of you at the end of July at the mini Model UN conference for high school students, which we will co-host with the UNA USA Westchester chapter. So we really hope to see you there. And thank you so much. And thank you for co-hosting with us.
Thank you, Dr. Seidel. Now let's hear from our 3 students. They took different roles in the Model UN this year, and each one will speak one minute. First, Lavina Resto, are you there? She just graduated from Mercy College with a Bachelor of Science in International Relations and Diplomacy. She was our head delegate. In addition, she was a delegation to the IOM until she was headhunted as the chair of the UNESCO committee. Lavina, you have the floor for 1 minute.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, UNA USA Westchester, for honoring us again. This is the second time you guys have honored us, and it has been a great feeling to be recognized for all of our hard work. First, being a part of the Mercy College Model UN team has been one of the biggest highlights of my college career. Once I joined the team about 2 years ago, it was hard for me to really stop. I found myself wanting to join every semester and be a part of this experience. This semester, as well as last semester, I was part of the team as head delegate. And that particular journey was difficult and challenging for me, but in the end, it was also very rewarding. We were able to experience the team, a group of students who really didn't know one another well, who really didn't know what Model UN was about, from the beginning of the semester to watch them grow and execute as a fully functional team at the conference and come out on top. I mean, just to watch that kind of growth as a leader and to see within your team is really just like a great experience. It makes it all worthwhile. So not only did the team make lasting friendships and memories, one of the most important things that we did do was learn things that we could take away into the real world. We learned what it means to be resilient in the presence of adversity, what it means to work with others who may have differing views, and what it means to be a leader and use your voice, especially in times like this. As Dean Seidel pointed out, there's so much going on in the world, and to be able to have your voice be heard and amplify it amongst many other voices is very important. And Model UN gives you those skills and those opportunities to learn how to do that. And so once you graduate, like me, you get to go out into the real world and take those skills. So now that I've graduated and move on, I'll miss the team. I'll miss Professor Kuroda, who has instilled so much into me, into the team itself and all the students who come through. But I can only assure that I'll take everything I learned into my future endeavors. And I can't wait to come back to Mercy as an alum and help out any way I can. So thank you. And thank you, UNA Westchester, for honoring us again.
Now I would like to introduce you Ryan Miglio. He also just graduated from Mercy College with a Bachelor of Science in Business. He was the chair of the UNICEF committee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Miglio. So a little background on me. As Professor Kuroda just said, I was a business student going into college. I have a background in business development, social media management, and marketing on a professional level since I was in high school, more on the sports and music side of things. When I was 18, I had the choice to work full-time for the startup I was at. When I was back in high school, I would have had to move to San Francisco instead of going to college. I made a promise to my grandfather, which was to go to college and eventually get my degree. My grandfather was one of my biggest inspirations. He was very big in humanitarianism. He built schools and food operations out in Haiti. He built libraries and schools here in America. And he even had his own Christmas bailout program where he allowed fathers and mothers to go see their children on Christmas. Now, as I have been in business professionally since high school, being in business classes kind of refined the experiences that I've already had. But it was one class in particular, international business, that got me interested into the scope of the world. Next semester, I had signed up for an international relations class, which had ended up being one of the best choices I had made in my college career. As my professor reached out to me and introduced me to a lot of my good friends nowadays and further mentored me in a great way. I had learned how to speak publicly and give speeches, which was something I struggled with prior. I had learned how to think critically and research efficiently and effectively. I had learned how to negotiate, mediate, and work with other people who have different, diverse backgrounds. I even learned how to write professionally, eventually earning 2 outstanding position paper awards in my 2 conferences prior to this one. Now, this is all thanks to the mentorship of Professor Kuroda and the resources that the IRDP program at Mercy College has offered to me. In my 3rd and final conference as an undergrad, I had an opportunity to serve as the chair of the UNICEF committee. This experience was second to none, and it was amazing to see the energy and excitement that the delegates had when it came to working together. And I was honored to be a part of that procedural process that saw the eventual success of our committee. During an informal break in our session, I was greeted by the USA's Youth Ambassador for UNICEF. It was an honor to see it would be an honor to see if our ideas generated in this conference could create an impact or a real world influence. When I sit down at the end of the day, I can say that with no doubt, being a part of the Model United Nations team was not only a highlight, but rather a core element of my college experience and going into my future. Thank you.
Now, last but not least, Hilda Maganga Guari. She also just graduated from Mercy College with a Bachelor of Science in International Relations and Diplomacy. She was officially the first timer in the UN, Model UN, in the third committee. Believe me, she was very well prepared. Hilda.
Thank you, Professor Kuroda. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure and an honor for me to be here today. My first experience at the 2022 National Model UN was one of a kind. Although I was a first timer for NMAN, thanks to Professor Kuroda, Davina, Ryan here, and all the other all my other team members, I was fully prepared to embark on this adventure and successfully represent the Philippines as a diplomat. I was part of the General Assembly Third Committee, and I participated in the discussion on education, more specifically on how to ensure an inclusive and equitable access to education. My committee had more than 60 delegations, and all from diverse backgrounds gathered to share their opinion and ideas, all unique and innovative. The level of cooperation each delegation showed was very remarkable. Not only did Model UN deepen my understanding of the UN and also the SDGs, it also helped me build confidence and sharpen my public speaking, negotiation, diplomacy, and writing skill. One thing that I would say that I took from the Model UN is it's together, is that together we can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, distinguished members of the Westchester, and welcome guests. This is the end of our session. Marsha, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kuroda, and thank you to the three students, the very poised, excellent speakers. Really, you are great. And I hope the young people in the audience will think about joining Model UN in their high schools as well. I am happy to say that we have come to the end of our program. I wanted to thank the Links Incorporated, who have supplied the nice reception that we have, the refreshments at the reception. I want to thank the volunteers such as Hulda and Elisa and Marilyn, and all my fellow members of the board. Thank you very much for participating, and please help yourself to some refreshments. Thank you.